Welcome, Carm Capriato, the Service Aftermarkets Podcast Pioneer, with the gold standard of aftermarket business podcasts. Join me for Aftermarket Insights as we advance the aftermarket. And as always, know that you'll learn just one thing. Find us on your favorite podcast listening app and RemarkableResults.biz or on my YouTube channel. Hey, everybody, Carm Capriato, Remarkable Results Radio, another Town Hall Academy. I think we're in week, 380, 390, something like that. You can keep track. I might not, because when I do keep track, I say, wow, that's been a long time that we're doing this. So good to have you. I got a great panel, great show topic today about what does a no culture shop look like? You may have one, you may not. We're going to talk about if you do, how could you bail yourself up and out of it? Before we get to our topic, thank you so much to our great partners. You know, let's face it, if your shop management system is the most critical tool in your shop, you know it, and it is. NapaTrax will move your shop into the SMS fast lane with on-site training and 6 days a week support and local representation. Find NapaTrax on the web at NapaTracs.com. Hey, shop owners, at the end of the day, relish in the satisfaction of seeing your business thrive, your team motivated, and your customers leaving with a smile. Talk to Coach Chris, Auto Shop Coaching at AutoshopCoaching.com. Hey, ready to optimize training with today's class? Roll out a training plan for your automotive shop. Now, in just 5 minutes daily, boost knowledge, retention, and improve team performance. Start seeing results today. Talk to everybody I talk to that has this say it's one of the best things they've ever done. Join your peers at todaysclass.com. Hey, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and thanks. Going on this year, AARO up in Toronto. We are going to be at ASTA, sponsored by NapaTrax, September 26th through the 28th, 2024, astaexpo.com. And of course, we're going to be at Apex this year and the RSOT conference. I mean, a lot of things going on. We're so happy to be out with our studio recording, saying hi, giving keynotes. Hey, I want to welcome our panel. You can imagine what it takes to put together such a hardworking panel of experts like this, but I did. Rick White's here, the CEO of 180Biz at 180biz.com. Maryann Croce, smallbizvantage.com, and Croce's Transmissions, Norwalk, Connecticut. Dave Schedin's here, CEO, CompuTrek, master coach, former shop owner, and former master tech. Are you still wrenching, Dave?
No, I don't even want to change a light bulb anymore.
Just check.
However, I'm reading bulletins and I'm staying up on things. Mentally, I can do a lot of mental repairs, just not the physical part of it.
I see. Okay.
Now that's funny because this weekend, my grandson just bought his first truck and we are going to be tearing it apart and working on it together. Yeah, so that still happens sometimes. We just got to get a big jack so I can slide underneath it. This small, I don't fit. So,
are you going to ASTA this year, Rick?
I'm going to be at ASTA. I'm going to be at Apex. I'm going to be out at Flocka for their Accelerate.
Yeah. I mean, hey, is your grandson going to be at ASTA?
I'm hoping so. I got to talk to my daughter
because I owe you an interview for him. And now that you just told me some other stuff, that would be really cool to ask him.
Oh yeah, it'll be fun. He has no idea what he's getting into this weekend, so it's going to be a lot of fun.
It's all good.
Hey, look, we're talking about a no culture shop, and it really hit me really hard about so many people that are just, if you will, going in each and every single day and doing their thing, and maybe wondering how it all happens and how I got to do it again tomorrow and how can I get really better. I'm seeing friends, I'm watching things on social media, I'm reading posts, I'm listening to podcasts. It's amazing. What does a no culture shop look like? So here's my thinking. Is that me? I think I'm okay. I'll get up again and I'll do it again tomorrow. If you can't keep great people, what happens if you could? Maybe your customers don't demonstrate loyalty to you and their faces and their lack of compliments to you, and in the fact that this is their first time and last time in. Everyone's complaining about something, but no fix is in order. And people are late for work and they leave early and the place is unkept. And you may say, well, that's just a lack of organization. And I'm going to say that it may be a lack of no culture. So I want to draw a picture. So if you fit into all the things that we're going to talk about, you'll need to make some big changes and maybe get some expert help. And that's what I have, professional auto shop management experts here. You can call them coaches, but I actually want to start calling them professional auto shop management experts, because that's what they really are. Oh, I don't want a coach. I need an expert. Oh, good. Remove the word coach, add the word expert, and you're in, baby. So if you sound like this that I've described, then it must be intentional, right, Rick?
Well, see, when you put out this whole concept of no culture, I immediately went, that's bullshit. There's always a culture,
Yeah.
right? The reality is what we're going to talk about today is intentional versus unintentional culture.
Yes.
Right. And why do we have unintentional culture? We have unintentional culture because they're either unaware or they have lack of this indifference to it. Like, who cares? I just want to make money. Or there's a lack of focus, or there's a fear of putting something out there because I don't want to lose the people I have, because there's no good people to replace them with. So I really think what we want to talk about is, do we want to go from an unintentional culture where things are happening to me and I get to play the victim, or am I going to start to become a creator? And am I going to start to create something that not only is going to be more fun to be a part of, but it's also going to be a talent magnet, right? Where it's going to start to attract the right kind of people.
I think, as you said, that the last part of it is so powerful, that we don't pay attention in life to what it is that we want. And when we don't have the want at a high level, we will never attract the want that we truly want. It's the laws of attraction. And so when you create the space for something to exist and it doesn't exist there, nature abhors a vacuum. And when you create the space where you want a positive culture versus a negative culture, I'm in agreement with Rick. There is no such thing as a non-culture. You have one. It can be a level -10 or a level 10 and the whole gamut in between. And so as you figure out what it is that you want to create, I'm going to suggest that I'm going to come from here. There's a statement out that if your 5 closest inner circle friends, pretty much most people, all their bank accounts are the same. The 5 shops that you hang around with, that you interact with, that you're open to, that you engage in automotive friendship with them, if they have a high culture, you'll be lifted up. You'll want to put yourself in an environment through trade associations, through a group coaching process. You want to put yourself in a situation where you can grow into the culture that you want. But it's right back to, what is it that you want? Did you ever take time to, you know what? I want people to show up on time. I want honesty. I want integrity. I want heart of service. What are the character traits and qualities that I want in my business from my people? And that culture, once you identify your culture, now you invade your systems, which means like your hiring process, onboarding process. Hey, we have a culture of training. You're not into training, you're not going to fit our culture. Yeah, I get you did 15, 16 hours a day at your last job and you're a high producer in that. But you know what? I'm interested in a culture that has sustainability. You're leaving your job for a reason, right? People don't usually quit a job because of the job. They quit a job because of a person or a culture. And so, boy, I just opened up like 10 rabbit trails there.
Yes, you did. And you're known for that. That's why I have you on. Yeah. Hunting season's coming up.
Pesky little wabbit.
Maryann, basically, it's your business.
Exactly.
And if you want it, if this is how you want to run it.
Exactly. That's what you have to choose. And to both Dave and Rick's point, there is no such thing as no culture, right? It's funny, right? That's the title. But I think what happens is, because owners haven't thought about it, because culture is kind of like a buzzword today, and it may mean to people, oh, that's just the warm and fuzzy stuff, or it's more fluff than anything else. And shop owners think of themselves as doers, and I want to take action and I want to get things done. But when I think of culture, you can even substitute the word environment. It's really the environment that's in your shop. And here's the thing that a lot of times we don't realize. People will walk into your shop, customers, team members, suppliers, vendors. It doesn't take them long to assess what type of environment they're in. Very quick. Is it a positive one? Is it a friendly one? Is it negative? Is it chaotic here? Quick little story about culture. A family member of mine a couple of weeks ago ended up in an ER. Fine, no major issues, but it was scary there. So they ended up in the ER. And when I was talking to her, she said to me, what was so scary about the situation was the team in the ER was arguing amongst themselves.
Oh boy.
So her trust and their ability to find out what was going on with her or what was wrong went way down. It was very, very low. And she couldn't wait for them to do whatever they had to do and then go back to her doctor who she trusted. But this is what happens. That culture is there. And to Rick's point, is it intentional or isn't it intentional? One or the other. How did it happen? So it's very, very important because these small changes that we're going to all discuss and talk about can make huge impacts on your business.
Yeah. What scares me is if you're not being, let's face it, culture is to what Maryann was saying is the environment. It's how it feels, right? It's the guardrails. It's the boundaries that we put together. These are the rules and the values that we live by. And this is why, right? And here's the thing. If you're not intentionally setting the culture, who is, right? That's the scary part. Who is? Yeah. Who are you allowing to do that? And that scares the crap out of me because at the end of the day, they go home, they get a paycheck. They're not the ones writing the bills, paying the bills. And it's funny, I'll do a class, Carm, and one of the questions I ask, it's an owner class, and I'll say, how many of you are on performance-based pay? Nobody's hand goes up. And I say, how many of you're the first one that doesn't get paid when there's not enough money in the bank? And then all the hands go up. And I said, that's performance-based pay, right? Because we really are on a performance-based pay system. And if we're not the ones being in charge of this and kind of focusing on what do we want, not only for ourselves, but for the team, the scary part is there are so many shop owners that dread going to work every day. And it's because they haven't intentionally said, this is what I want work to look like.
Right.
This is what I want work to feel like. And when you start to do that, it gets to be fun. Work should be fun. I have fun every day. I mean, look at I got Star Wars stuff. My wife says, why do you want to go to the office? All my damn toys are here. I love this, right? This is fun for me. I got my grandson working over here in the other room today. He comes in once a week now and works with us. I mean, this is fun.
And that's part of your culture. That's exactly.
I got my dog laying over here.
Yeah. And if a business is profitable, because every single shop owner out there says, okay, profitable. We all hear that all the time. But what we overlook a lot of times that it also has to be sustainable. And you need trust. You need trust in your team. Your team needs clear directions, clear objectives. They need to know what you stand for. Because that's security for them. The other thing is, like Rick was just mentioning, you saw him light up. Business needs to be enjoyable.
Yeah.
You don't need to dread it. And we talk about profitability a lot in the industry, but if you were to picture a Venn diagram, being profitable, sustainable, and enjoyable, they are all equally important.
Hey, I want to stop for a moment, and I think you all had each other's talking points presented to you. And Rick, I love your point number 4, the results of a poor culture. And where I think we can go with some of those great talking points that you have is if there's no such thing as a no culture company, and there is one, we could go down that list and say, and here's your first one, unethical practices. Do we have that? Okay. That's part of your list. And here's my point. It's really neat to be able to go down a list or do a SWOT on your company and say, yeah, that's us. High employee turnover. That's us. I see where this whole negative, we don't have one is going. And if you look at every one of those and you check the box, the next answer is, what do I do about it? So let's start. Let's go through this list. I think it's great. Unethical practices. If you got it, I mean, how do you sleep at night? That's my question.
You don't.
I think the path of culture that a shop owner, intentional or unintentional, will always follow their own path of their intentionality, whether it's intentional or unintentional, of their own personal development. If they see no value in the intangible, that is probably 99% of your business is dealt in the intangible realm, and 1% is work order racks and software and logistics and the rest of that. The intangible has way more to do with your business than anything else. And if you have an owner who's not in touch with their own personal development, taking themselves on and wanting to truly want a better version of themselves, their own self culture is what will drive the culture there. If they have a low self-esteem, which is a culture, they're going to bring a low self-esteem into their business. And here's a real-world environment. From a childhood rearing, there's tape scripts and programs that reside in the brain that protect you. They're for survival. And one of them is the need to be loved. They need to be liked. They need to be appreciated. And so I would do things to get just attention with that. And I was at an early age, it was, Dave, if you just learn this, you'd be worth something. If you just learn this, it wouldn't be so hard. If you just learn, you just learn, you just learn. So learning, if you learn, then you're somebody. So I learned a lot, but then I spewed a lot of knowledge back, thinking it was wisdom, so people would like me or love me because I'm knowledgeable. And so now, fast forward, as I look at what I do what I did in my shop, is I am frantic. I'm highly profitable, but I'm burnt out. And I had this little conversation with myself. I just said, man, I'm just so burnt out. So voice of, well, why are you that? Well, because you know what? I got to write it up, and then I got to go out in the shop. I got to help them diagnose it. I got to help them fix the car, and I was pretty upset with this whole situation. This whole voice said, well, who hired him? Oh, okay. Now I see where this is going. I said, okay, well, I did. Why didn't you hire somebody smarter than you, faster than you, better than you? Because my ego, my pain, my self-protective program, unless I was rescuing, unless I was doing above and beyond everybody else, which created my burnout, then that's how I created my value. That was the culture I set, and my people followed that as well. There was turnover in that. Eventually, it came to the point where that conversation continued, is I didn't never hire somebody smarter than me because I wanted to be the shall answer man, the guy that swooped in and saved the day. And if things were going smooth, here's the caveat. And I see shop owners and I'm coaching them through it, and I can recognize it because it was in my life. If things are going smooth and my value is when I rescue and fix something, guess who subconsciously ruins an environment and a culture? So I get to step in and be the hero again.
I like what he said about value, my value, but he didn't say the word values. You feel you have value to your business. And as we were speaking earlier, but the unethical practices that I have is not producing any values, and I can't keep great skilled people because of that.
No, you got a lot of turnover. And here's the thing I like about what Dave said is the difference between knowledgeable and wisdom, right? Knowledge is something I learn. Wisdom is what I get when I apply the knowledge in real life, right? It's the application that creates wisdom. I tell people all the time, wisdom comes from experience. Experience comes from mistakes, right? So I've made a lot of mistakes, and I'm very proud of those mistakes because I am who I am today because of them. But I've been that same way. I was the smartest guy in the shop, and it took me a long time to realize that I don't want to be the smartest guy. I want to orchestrate the smartest guys. And ladies, right. Please forgive me. I'm from the Northeast. Guys is a non-gender specific term. So it really is. But you end up with a lot of mistakes. There's no trust. You're micromanaging. You won't delegate. There's a blame culture. Everybody's pointing fingers at everybody else, trying to protect themselves. There's double standards. And let's face it, if I got a guy over here billing 20 hours a week and you're accepting that, and I'm up here doing 50, 60 hours a week and you're pushing me, at some point I'm like, screw you. I'm coming down. I'm not going to work this hard. Why would I do that? Right? Unfair distribution of work, favoritism, right? And gossip. Is there gossip going on in the shop? Is there cliques going on? Unsafe work environment, 2 different ways, physically and psychologically.
Yeah.
Right? Resistance to change, poor leadership, low morale. These are all indicators of a poor culture, okay? When your to-do list says get up, survive, go to sleep, there's a problem. Survival is not, that's not thriving. That is not abundance, right? When your goal is to get to the end of the day without killing somebody, we have a problem.
And that's not why owners went into becoming owners. And that list that you were saying, Rick, is a really good list. But to me, all of those things fit into there's no trust and they don't feel secure. So your team, I use team a lot of times, however you use it, team employees, they become disengaged. And that is the worst when you have someone there working with you, for you, with you, and they're disengaged. They're not even concerned. They don't even feel a part of it. There's another thing that Dave had brought up, and I think this is really important because when you feel the way that Rick was saying, right, and it's basically survival mode. When I work with clients, a big thing that comes up is leadership or the lack of leadership because many haven't had good examples or experience with leadership in their life. And here's what I see happening. Your shop will grow or reach levels of success only to the level of your leadership. Then you will stop. You will get stuck. You'll get stuck, you'll get in a rut, and you'll wonder what's happening. It's really important to grow as a leader yourself and invest in yourself so that you can give back to your team and you can see some of the opportunities, like, for example, creating a healthy environment, a healthy culture, and see all the different effects the benefits that it'll help with your business. But really, it starts with you as an owner being a leader. And even if you didn't sign up for that initially, that wasn't what you were thinking, that's what you are, whether you realize it or not. They're taking what you do, what you say, they're taking that as an example.
Hey, let's face it, your shop management system is the single most important tool in your shop, period. NapaTrax has made selecting the right shop management system easy by offering the industry's best, most comprehensive SMS. Now, it all starts when a local representative meets with you to learn about your business and how you need to run it. After all, it's your shop, so it's your choice, and having local representation is a huge plus. Customizing tracks to your business, whether you're a one-person shop or a large multi-bay or multi-location company, a representative consults with you to help optimize your shop's workflow, efficiency, and profitability. Trax always has the flexibility to do business how you need to do it, which means it can also grow as your business grows. And unlike the other guys, will be there for you after installation with the best training and support in the business. Yes, a learning management system tailored to each role in your company. Simply put, Trax was designed and built for shop owners just like you. Visit us on the web at NapaTrax, that's NapaTracs.com. In the world of auto repair, every shop has its unique rhythm and challenges. At AutoFix Auto Shop Coaching, they understand that one size does not fit all. That's why we offer personalized business coaching, tailoring our advice to meet your shop's specific needs. Transform your operations with strategies and tools to streamline your workflow, reduce waste, and skyrocket productivity. And when it comes to the numbers, we've got you covered. Our financial management guidance helps you master your finances from cash flow to profit margins, ensuring your revenue grows stronger. Every day, AutoFix Auto Shop Coaching, empowering your shop to achieve more. Visit us at Autoshopcoaching.com. Transform your team with today's class, where automotive training is easy, quick, and fun. Just 5 minutes a day on our app can eliminate hours of looking up forgotten information later. It's perfect for technicians, advisors, and managers alike. Keep critical knowledge fresh and top of mind, ensuring your team operates at peak efficiency. Today's class is impactful, accessible from anywhere, and a bit of fun too, and we're not talking about after-hours pizza either. For training that gets results, turn to todaysclass.com. I got to stop and ask all these great experts here on the panel, I'm sure the answer to my question is yes, Carm, we have. And my question would be, have you lost clients because you tried to make them better leaders and improve their culture? I'm sure the answer is yes. Someone's listening to this podcast going down the road. They've been told, please listen to this. I think it would really help you. And they're this far into the episode and they say, this is too touchy-feely. I'm not that kind of person. I can only work for me. And I guess I'm going to be living the rest of my life in this ugliness of a struggle. And I'm hoping, and the reason that we keep working so hard as the original premier podcaster in the industry is that we still got thousands of shop owners to take over that hump and to improve the professionalism of our industry. So don't discount what you may hear as, I'm not like that. I can't do that. I am rough and I am rugged, and this is how I'm going to do it every day. Is there a point in time, everyone, as you look down, say, this proverbial 5 to 10 year calendar and says, well, business is going so fast, customers are getting so sophisticated, the economy is such a factor, technology is there, that you're probably going to have to put a key in the door in a certain amount of time. And don't be upset when that happens. Or why don't you just go out and work for somebody?
Sometimes that's a good answer. Sometimes that's a good answer. I mean, when I'm genuinely not happy with what I'm doing, because let's face it, business ownership is like having kids. If we really knew what it was going to be like, we'd be extinct, right? I mean, let's face it. If we knew what it was really like to own our own business, we would not do it. Not at the beginning anyway, right? And, I was talking to a shop owner recently and I said, why'd you start your own business? He goes, I wanted more free time. And I laughed and I said, it's like having another kid and saying, I want more free time. It doesn't happen. But it's so rewarding when you have the right mental focus towards it, right? To be the captain of your own ship. I'm talking with somebody that's starting his own business, a training company, and I'm walking him through it. And he's petrified of going from a regular paycheck to being an owner and having to chase his next meal. And I'm like, dude, you're going to be chasing your next meal for the rest of your life. That's the way this is. The difference is, are you chasing today's meal or are you chasing next month's meal? Right? Mm-hmm. That's the difference.
Powerful.
Because that's what it's about. But there's nothing more powerful because the wins are just so cool. And honestly, I truly believe that owning your own business is one of the best self-help things you can do for yourself.
Amen to that.
You get instant feedback. Right? It either works really well or it kicks you in the ass, but it works.
Lots of golden nuggets. Yes, absolutely. I know what you mean when you say, when you open up your shop, probably the first couple of years were the most eventful, because I'm still a shop owner myself. So the most eventful, the most, I would say, emotions to deal with and putting everything in place to get it up and running and the way you want, create it the way you want. So it's those first couple of years. Yes, definitely. You have to get to know yourself as well, but it doesn't always have to be, I am tied to the shop and I have to worry about all of these things, because when you start out and you're doing all of that, you start to learn the things that you need to do. And once you start implementing those things and putting them into action, you'll find out that you're actually taking things off your plate. What I find is a lot of shop owners are 10, 12 years in or more, and those habits that they created when they first opened it up, wearing that hat, putting on the other hat, doing it all, it was very hard to let go of that. So they're still operating that way, but they don't have to be operating that way forever. When you are able to really understand your numbers, when you're able to go in and empower your team and start handing things off like we were talking about earlier, all of a sudden it frees you up and you get that time that so many shop owners don't feel that they have.
But you see, part of this, I think this comes, I want to step back a little bit. I think for you to have a positive culture and to be thinking the way you are, Maryann, there's got to be hope in the future. Too many times what happens is, Thomas Jefferson said, be firm on the destination, flexible on the path. And unfortunately, a lot of us in this industry, we're firm on the destination, we're firm on the path, and we're flexible on the destination. And what I mean by that is when I first start up in the business, I'm going to change the world. Like the gap is this big. And that's what goals are. They're gap management, right? After a while, when I do 2 or 3 things that don't work 100 times, instead of looking for the fourth way to do things, I change the gap. I lower the expectations. I live smaller than what I could. And then there's no hope. And we start to get bitter and disillusioned. And then we don't try to change at all. And I use the dreaded try word, but we don't change because there's no hope in the future. And John Maxwell said it brilliantly. He said, if there's hope in the future, there's power in the present. And that's a big part of this. This is part of the culture. If I think there's nothing to go for, that I'm just living out my life, I'm going to die. You know, another quote, Ben Franklin, right? He said, most people die at 25. They just don't fall over until they're 75. Right. You know, it's one of those things. We don't have to be that way. I'm 62 years old and I still believe the best is still in front of me, right?
I agree.
People ask me when I'm going to retire and I look at them and I say, day before they plant me. Like I have no plans on going anywhere. I love what I do too much, right? And there's nothing like I was talking to a shop owner who's been in our group now for about 1.5 years. He joined the group doing $40,000 a month, and he did $139,000 last month with the same staff. Okay, that is what lights me up. Right? When people can start to see the potential, and honestly, that's what we're here to do. We're here to give you hope. We're here to give you a perspective that's outside of the forest that you can't see through anymore, so that we can help you see that potential and start to recognize there is such a thing as a better culture, and there is such a thing as a better result, and there are good people out there.
Absolutely.
That's what this is about.
It's too funny because that's what I was just going to speak to, the hope and future. It is. And just if you're listening to this podcast and you're burnt out and you don't have hope, dial a friend. You got us to call. Well, it's a free conversation for a call. Beyond us, any coach should speak life into you. If you're one of those guys that said, you know what, I'm just a guy. You know what, I don't do this touchy-feely thing. I'm going to suggest that's all based in emotion. It really is. It's a fear of, I don't want to deal with my heart. I don't want to deal with the most powerful entity that we have. Your heart is 1,000 times more powerful, your subconscious, than this will ever be. That's why you can't white knuckle through anything to get through it. You need to align both of them together so that you are working from a place of congruency of the essence of who you are. Come back to the controller drivers in life, believe it or not, are the shop owners. They're a small percent, they're 25% or less of the controller drivers. I'm a guy and it's got to be this way. A lot of shop owners I get, man, they're supporter in nature and they're analytical in nature, and they get analysis of the paralysis. Mm-hmm. The challenge shop that I have is not somebody with a very low level culture to shift that. That is actually an easier shift than somebody who shifted to a level 7 culture and they've settled. You know what? I'm making enough money. I'm doing good. And here's the culture. I'm doing just enough so people won't quit. They're doing just enough to not be yelled at or be fired. And that's your culture. And the problem is it's a culture of apathy. And get this, there's nothing wrong with that. Hear me on this. There is nothing wrong with any culture that you have. As a standalone culture, there's nothing wrong with it, except for when you want to compare it to is, what is it that you want? You know what? This culture is never going to get me to that, my shop of 3 to 4 techs making $500,000 a year as a shop owner. Yes, shop owners, it's totally doable. $500,000 from a shop with 3 to 4 techs. Totally doable. And it doesn't mean you jack your price up to $500 an hour. You go after the true heart of service, what the car really does, you'll get there. The hope that we want to bring to you today is about that. There is a hope. You can shift your culture. It is not the proverbial peel the Band-Aid off and rip all the hairs off and create a crash in your business. It's one bite of the elephant culture at a time. Take time to strategically do that. And the problem with culture is, again, culture goes back to your internal culture and what are you working on yourself? And Personally, I don't think I have them, but everybody else in the world has blind spots. I don't have them because I never see them, right? Don't do your internal culture journey by yourself. Don't be your own tour guide. Get a coach, get a life coach, be on the business coach, get somebody who's got life skills to help you through that, whether it's a pastor, a counselor, a psychologist, personal development. Take yourself on and just do one little thing this month. Do one little thing next month. And next thing you know, in 12 months, you've done 12 things to shift your culture. And then in the next 12 months, and guess what? Your culture is not a set it and forget it, put this plan in place and in 24 hours, you've got it. It may take you 3 to 5 years to build your culture the way you want it.
Yeah, it's a long play. And, the reality is I love what Dave's saying, because one of the things I tell people all the time is you can't read the label when you're inside the jar. Right?
I love that.
It's just such a great way to talk about blind spots. I can't read the label. And, you got to have that. And while we're talking about culture, let's talk about what the ingredients are, right? So it's number one, it's how are you showing up as a leader, your behavior. Are you making it safe? Are you coming in and blowing up at people? Is it Jekyll and Hyde? That's not going to work. What are your values? Have you communicated those values? What does your communication look like in the shop? What's the structure? Is it compliance or is it commitment? Is it combative or is it collaborative? What about your employee recognition and development? What are you doing to actively celebrate the people that you're working with? What kind of interactions do you have? Do you have a rules of engagement where these are the values we're going to touch on with everybody? And if you go outside these values, we're going to call you on it because that's a boundary and you're not allowed to go beyond the boundary? And what about the environment? Physically, is it clean? Is it nurturing? Does it exude friendliness and caring? Is it psychologically safe where I can speak without fear of repercussion, ridicule, or rejection? These are all things these are the core culture ingredients. And I want you to understand every shop has these ingredients. You have them right now. The reality is they're on a spectrum. Wait a minute, which hand's got to go in? Okay. They're on a spectrum. Okay. We got, this is really sucks. And this is amazing. And the question is, when I go through these things with you, right? These, 6 different things. Oh, thank you. I can go wider. So when you're going through these 6 different ingredients, where do you place on that spectrum? This is where you start to look, analyze, own where you're at. This is where it starts. And then step up as a leader and figure out where you want to go. What do you want it to look like? What do you want it to feel like? Like Maryann said, to your vendors, to your clients, to your internal clients, what do you want it to feel like? Right? Identify the values that are important to you. Be vocal about them. And guess what? You might lose some people, but guess what here? These are the people that should be going away.
Okay, I am so motivated. I'm loving where this episode is going. And I've got a comment, a question about the feeling of culture that you have as an individual. We're talking to you now. And the person we're talking to is the individual that has been described, if you will. We've got all these issues: high employee turnover, mistakes, trust, double standards, values, low morale, poor leadership, all this stuff. It sounds like me. But I went out to a place the other day and I had a great experience. Wow, that owner really must care. The people there care. I can't quite say it happens in my place, but if I'm the person, how can I convince my people, even though they'll lock me in the back room? You stay there. We'll do everything really good and positive. But you've got to set the tone. You have to believe. You have to lead. So you can wish all of this stuff. You can live in a world where I've been affected by this stuff, but you can't come back and mind melted to anyone. And that's where I continue to go to the experts and the accountability partners. That's, even if you went to someone and says, listen, please help me financially, please help me with productivity, please help me with marketing. No, could you please just help me? There's the grandson. Help me with my culture. Help me with my culture. And I believe if you can fix that, then there's nothing else that can be done, that cannot be done.
Well, you got to understand that culture is an invitation. I can't make anybody conform to a culture. That's not within my DNA. The only thing I can make happen is within my skin.
Mhm.
Anything else is influence, right? An invitation. And I can invite them in and I'm going to show them this is where we're going. But I also need to make sure they understand that culture is more important than any one person. And the most difficult thing a shop owner will ever do is get rid of a toxic top performer.
Yep.
But unless you do that, every day you keep that toxic top performer in the business, you're telling people that culture really isn't important.
Mm-hmm.
Money is.
I can't tell you how many times that I've had shop owners, they've had a toxic employee producing 14, 16 hours a day, top producer, and they end up, the culture is so negative, so caustic, it's like cancer. And through encouragement and even challenging that person, giving that person an option to shift and change. And then when they leave, the extra 3 to 4 hours a day that they were producing, the other 3 techs started producing an hour more a day. And it kind of made up for it. So he really didn't lose ground on that. I'll give you an example of maybe how you could handle it. This is how I did at my shop. I had a high producing tech, 18 hours a day. And he was typically done by 2:30 or 3. So he'd run home. He came from a culture of populating the earth. So he had like 10 kids. So he'd go home to play with his kids in that. But high producer, zero comeback, but he was very toxic. And finally, I'd had enough. And I was having a wallet cramp to have this conversation because I know what losing that 16, 18 hours a day, I know what that's like to lose that. And I didn't think my guys could pick up the slack of the rest of that. So I had a conversation. I said, you know what? We're going to have a conversation. Actually, I take it back. I'm going to have a conversation with you. It's one-sided. If you speak, you're fired. This is how important it is to me. I said, Robert, I love your heart. I will love you till the day I die. You are a unique, wonderfully gifted and created human being. But today, I'm firing your behavior. I want to be really clear. I'm not firing you. I'm firing your behavior. It can no longer show up at Dave's Auto Repair. I need you to go home and think about, do you want to be on the team with a positive attitude, a non-cancerous attitude, and do you want to carry a hope and a future for the team? If you want to do that, you're welcome to be here. But if you're not going to unpartner yourself with your behavior, I'm sorry, your behavior is not welcome here, and you'll have to go with it. Because of a culture I created where I gave wives bonuses, I said, Robert, when you leave, I am going to call your wife and I'm going to ask her that, did Robert have a conversation? Because I tell him, I want you to have a conversation with your wife, why you are home early. And I said, this isn't about being mean or anything, but Robert, for your own benefit, there's something in you that is creating a negative culture, and how you do one thing, so you do everything. And so I'm going to have a conversation. Did you have a conversation with her or not? He showed up the next day, a different individual. I didn't bark at him in a sense. I didn't belittle him. If anything, I embraced the essence of who he was, but I distinguished his behavior as not who he is. One of the most powerful things I learned in life, we are not our thoughts. We are not our feelings. We are not our emotions. In fact, this convenient carrying case we come in, that's not even who we are. The essence of who we are, not those things, though just are reflections of choices that we're making in a moment. Those behavior is not your identity. Behavior is a choice that you're making in that moment. It was a different culture at that point when I stepped into, I love you enough to say, there's more gold in you. Let's bring the gold out.
Well, that brings up conversations that we have to have as owners, right? Difficult conversations or tough conversations. And a lot of times we wait too long to have those conversations, and that'll result in a negative culture type of environment, right? For no culture like we're talking here, but it'll definitely affect culture. But when I think about those tough conversations, and I've had to have them in the 25 years that we've had our shop, and there's two kinds. There's one like Dave had with that employee, that team member, and that was a conversation that was a tough conversation, but it came from, I would like to continue this relationship with this person. There's care, there's empathy. Then there's another conversation that we have when we want to end a relationship. So there's two kinds, and we complicate it. We think it's like this, really big thing, but there's really two kinds of tough conversations. And these are personal, and these work personally or professionally. And I have to say that I agree with everything that Rick and Dave are speaking of. When I think back as an early shop owner, one of the biggest challenges that I had was doing it all, or I should say, trying to do it all and burning myself out, and how that affects not only the shop, but it also affects your personal life as well. And you feel it. And when you're with your family or friends, or you're not in the shop, your mind is still going. You feel like you're working around the clock or going 24/7. And even when you're in your personal life, you don't feel present in your personal life. And people will say things to you like, hey, why is it always work? Why is it always business? So you'll notice that having that culture, there's the internal and there's the external. There's the things that Dave's were talking about. You have those internal things that are going on inside of you, the beliefs, the things that you believe, and then you take action or inaction because of those beliefs. And they could be things that you think about yourself. And what I have to say, for 25 years of being in this industry, for being a shop owner and now doing coaching, there are so many good people in this industry. They do not give themselves enough of credit. They are helping their community. They are helping in so many different ways, very, very giving, but they don't give themselves enough of credit. And my message to you is you are capable of more than you realize you are. So definitely go out there and get that support.
I'm thrilled that we all got together to do this discussion. I know, based on just the feedback you're giving to each other and your own personal convictions, we could go on for a long, long time. I just want to say one more thing about, I said the word observing, and I may write a blog on this. I may do a For the Record episode on this. On Labor Day, I was in a hospital. My wife's brother had a stroke. We went to the hospital, and this is the #1 stroke hospital in Western New York. And on our way there, you know what? I was thinking about the health and the welfare of Ann's brother, but I was also saying, why is this such a great place as a magnet for stroke? Why is this such a great place for automotive repair? Why do people love this place, trust it? Why do people talk about this all the time? What was it about? I was flabbergasted. It's 9 o'clock at night. They got rid of the clot at 10:30. And how it all happened in the interaction with the family, the neurologist, the surgeon, the RN, everything that was going on, it was like clockwork. You want to know why they can do $140,000 a month with the same group of people, the same number of bays from 40? Because they figured out how to work as a team, and they brought a high degree of culture together. And I'm looking at what I experienced personally, because I was observing. I was sitting there caring so much about my brother-in-law, but also watching what was going on and feeling what was going on and trying to come away with, why is this the #1 place in all of Buffalo? And I saw it.
I had a medical procedure yesterday at Johns Hopkins. It's 3 hours away from me. We drove 3 hours. We actually drove out Monday, got a hotel room because I had to be there at 7 a.m. And when I was there, it was absolutely unreal, the level of caring and everything like that every person in that hospital had. They were smiling. They were lifting. They were wheeling me out of the procedure. There was a nurse standing there talking to another nurse. She walked over and hit the door button so the doors would open for the person so she didn't have to stop.
Yes.
Little things like that. They were smiling, talking, uplifting, high-fiving each other. And it was just so cool to see. And I would love to be a fly on the wall for management there to see how they implemented it and stuff.
Yeah.
And the other thing I want to just bring up real quick is when you're starting to do this process and changing the culture, you got to get people to stop thinking the world ends right here. And you got to start making them seeing themselves as part of a team. And one of the best shows that I have seen do this is The Bear. goes into a very dysfunctional business that his brother had, and he starts calling people chef. And that was like one of the biggest takeaways I took from that. And like 4 episodes later, granted it's written, but these people started to see themselves as more. And as Goethe once said, that is, if you treat someone as he is, that is who he will remain. But if you treat them as who they could and should be, that is who they will become. And I think that's absolutely amazing.
Rick, thank you so much for the shout out, because my entire declaration on the language shift in our industry is all started with the bear. And so if anyone would like to get a copy of this and read it, it's remarkableresults.biz/rise. In fact, I'm giving that keynote on the Rise twice this coming month. And I've already given it 5 times this year. So yeah, you're right to watch and to see that culture shift. And I haven't seen all of season 3 yet, Rick, but I got to finish it soon because I'm such a big fan of that show. Look at everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I sure appreciate this. It was a great show. We laid a plethora of golden nuggets on our industry, on anyone who individually has listened to this and saying to themselves, I guess it's time. I need to do this. It's all about me. We got to change. I love my business. I just don't love working at it. So, and I got to fix it. Rick White, 180 Biz, Maryann Croce, Small Biz, Vantage.com, and Dave Schedin, CEO of CompuTrek. Thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate it. See you on the other side.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you.